When we look for early critiques of economic exploitation, we don't have to start in the Industrial Revolution. We can look to the ancient world, specifically to the writings of King Solomon. In the book of Koheles, Shlomo HaMelech offers a raw eyewitness testimony. He documents the systemic economic oppression of his time, noting the uncomforted tears of those crushed under the weight of powerful, unyielding forces. His observations lead him to a dark philosophical conclusion. The deceased are actually more fortunate than the living, who are forced to endure this relentless system. You can see the heavy finality of this thought reflected in these ancient matzavot. Matzavot are traditional Jewish rectangular headstones used to mark burial sites. Solomon identifies the hidden engine driving this entire economic machine. It is competitive self-interest, fueled entirely by the jealousy of one's neighbor. He contrasts the highly ambitious innovator with the self-indulgent fool who folds his hands and wastes away. Despite their different approaches to life, Solomon sees both as symptoms of the exact same societal illness. When a society is built purely on competitive self-interest and egotistical ambition, life becomes a hollow pursuit. It forces us to take a hard look at the root of our own modern ambitions. King Solomon doesn't leave us with a bleak diagnosis. He offers a structural solution rooted in social solidarity and cooperative living. He makes a clear calculation. Having one full palm accompanied by serenity is vastly superior to having two fistfuls of constant drudgery and depression. He points to the tragic archetype of the hyper-individualistic man. This is a person who isolates himself to hoard his wealth, avoiding the financial obligations of a family or community. This isolated pursuit of self-reliance is an absolute dead end. The individual works endlessly, yet his wealth never feels sufficient, and his soul remains utterly deprived of actual good. The structural antidote is mutual aid. Solomon explains the physical and mathematical superiority of cooperative labor. Two people working together are stronger, because when one falls, the other is there to lift him up. This animated diagram shows King Solomon's concept of the threefold cord. By unifying the different classes of society, the royal, the bourgeois, and the proletarian, a nation creates an unbreakable structural bond. Fiscal union breeds class union. True societal resilience requires abandoning atomized individualism in favor of deep structural cohesion. Shlomo HaMelech then takes this critique straight to the seat of power, questioning the very nature of political leadership. He draws a sharp contrast. On one side, you have an aged, hedonistic king relying entirely on his unearned birthright. On the other, an impoverished but highly ethical young scholar. The young scholar's fitness to rule is anchored in his dedication to traditional law and ethics, as seen in his study of the Torah. The Torah is the foundational text of Jewish law and spiritual teaching, inscribed in Hebrew on parchment scrolls. Solomon observes a harsh reality of natural selection. The system naturally favors the hungry, adaptable strategist from the lower classes over a completely complacent aristocrat. Yet he issues a sober warning about the public. The masses possess a fickle, ungrateful nature, and they will inevitably turn against even the wisest new ruler. Because popular support is inherently unstable, true political leadership cannot rely on the applause of the crowd. It must be rooted strictly in objective virtue. When approaching the divine, King Solomon strictly demands that we drop our outward illusions and humble ourselves before God. Looking at the majestic scale of the ancient city of Jerusalem, we see a physical reminder of the vast gap between mortal humans and God. Against this backdrop, Solomon critiques the glaring hypocrisy of performative religion, where individuals use grand outward displays to mask a total lack of internal moral commitment. He explains that chaotic, rambling promises are actually psychological evidence of an unethical mind. Excessive talking is often just a tool used by the self-serving to rationalize their own flaws. Making empty verbal pledges to God is highly destructive. Solomon advises that it is far better to remain completely silent than to make a grand promise you will inevitably break. The authentic alternative to performative piety is absolute sincerity, much like the quiet, unembellished light of the traditional golden menorah used in the biblical sanctuary. True reverence requires stripping away our performative pledges. We must speak less, align our actions with integrity, and submit humbly. In the end, Solomon teaches that wisdom isn't found in what we loudly claim, but in what we silently observe and quietly execute.